Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by the Guild. I am Tom Downey, as you just saw some training camp highlights, and we'll take it now to some Cowboys rumors. First up, will Dak and Zeke stand for the National Anthem? After the comments from Jerry Jones about saying he's going to make the Cowboys players stand, well, Dak and Zeke came out in support of that, both of them saying that they were going to stand and that they thought the Cowboys players should stand as well. So 4 stars on this one. Of course, there was some pro-Trump supporters there at training camp yesterday as well. Overall, it's not a huge surprise here from Dak and Zeke. Both have kind of hinted at that in the past, especially Dak. Again, Jerry Jones said players had to stand during the anthem for the Cowboys, and if there was going to be any type of feedback or pushback, it would have to have come from Dak or Zeke. Those are the two big superstar players. Instead, Zeke comes out here, says, quote on it, says, hey, we're the Dallas Football Cowboys, America's team. We stand for the National Anthem. So 4 stars on that one. In the end, don't expect any players to do anything but stand for the National Anthem this year on the Cowboys. So let me know, do you agree that Cowboy players should stand for the National Anthem? Let me know in the comments section, and feel free to throw in why as well. That whole storyline, though, quickly kind of got put by the wayside with some more Dez Bryant drama, even though he's not on the team, but that's the nature of playing, I guess, for the Dallas Cowboys. So first up, will Dak be better without Dez Bryant? 2 stars on this one. This was the impetus behind Stephen Jones' comments that resulted in all of that drama earlier this weekend. So Stephen says he expects Dak to be better this year and thinks the removal of Bryant might help Dak and even maybe some Jason Wynn because it will allow Dak to spread the ball around more. I'm only giving it the 2 stars, though, because I think a healthy O-line and Zeke for all 16 games is going to be a much bigger reason as to why I do think Dak Prescott will play better this year in year 3. So Stephen Jones says he's got to trust the systems, which at last times there was pressure on Dak, and he says with Dez in his ear and to some degree Jason, great players want balls. I think he'll have the year he had last year, if not better. So Stephen, in reality, kind of saying, hey, you know, there's a little bit of pressure from Dez and Jason. They were great players. Of course, they wanted the football. Now Dak can spread it out a little bit more. He didn't mean it as a negative comment, but as we'll get to here in a little bit, Dez Bryant definitely took it as one. So let me know, folks, will Dak be better this year? Give me a 1 for a yes and a 2 for a no. Well, Dez Bryant saw the comments from Stephen Jones, which, to be fair, were taken inappropriately out of context by SiriusXM, and that prompted the whole Dez tweeting firestorm. But the big one from Dez, of all the comments he made, was that he called Sean Lee a snake. I am only going to give this one the 1 star. Maybe there's a little bit of truth to it, but this is Sean Lee. I have a tough time seeing him, having input in the Cowboys front office and their roster moves, and I think he was probably more a little bit open with Dez Bryant. So Dez, and I think at times rightfully so, has felt that he has been scapegoated by the Dallas Cowboys. And he accused Sean Lee, or as he called him, Snake Lee, of being cut, and he said that getting him cut was part of the reason that Lee was behind. So here's the initial tweet from Dez Bryant, the one that kind of started it all. And he says, here we go with that scapegoat shit. I charged everything in the game and went the other way. Y'all know what the real problem is. Don't put it on me. Says it's the play calling blaming Scallaghan, which I think most of us can't agree with there. But Dez Bryant was not done with his Twitter storm. And he also said, hey, Jerry's not clueless. All right, or Steven's not clueless. Jerry was the one who was clueless, and it was planned, and that Travis Frederick and Sean Lee were the ones who pushed to get rid of Dez Bryant. I remember there had been reports that, oh, Jason Witten was the snake, or maybe it was Dak Prescott. Now Dez puts some names on it, says it's Frederick and Sean Lee. Well, Sean Lee did not waste much time there, and he instantly clapped back. Take a listen.
You know, first thing to say that I can get anybody off the team and have any input on the roster is absurd. Second thing, I love Dez and I want the best for him. You know, to be honest, we did butt heads because I wanted Dez to be more accountable to this team and his teammates. And to be honest with you, a lot of the team felt that way. I think he needs to look at himself and hold himself accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, so let me know whose side are you on. Give me an S for Sean Lee and a D for Dez Bryant. Look, I am pro Dez, but I'm even more so Sean Lee. I am going to take Sean Lee's side here. I think in reality, there's a little truth to everyone's side here, but in particular, you keep looking at it, Dez has blamed everyone else but himself for his down years. Now, yeah, there's some accurate statements there, including Linehan's scheme, but I do think Dez doesn't take a little bit more responsibility, and I'm always going to side with Sean Lee, or at least almost always as well. Today's show was brought to you by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com and use promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. If you come to Dallas for a Cowboys game, you got to stay with The Guild. All right, a few more rumors to dive into here. Will Kevon Frazier be back soon? Well, I'm going to give it 3 stars. He certainly seems to think so, and I'll take him at his word for the most part here. Again, he is on the NFI list with a blood clotting issue, namely the blood will not properly clot if he gets hurt. If there's if there's an injury, he might end up bleeding out. So that's the big concern there. That's the big red flag. He says his tests since then have been normal, and he should be back pretty soon. He claims the move was only precautionary, so hopefully some good news on that end. More injury news here. Wide receivers, are they dealing with some injuries? Well, yeah, unfortunately here, 4 stars on this one. 2 receivers are a bit banged up. First up, Noah Brown has missed the last 2 days of practice with a sore hamstring. Not what you want to see, A, the hamstring issues last year, and B, a guy competing for a roster spot. Also is Cedric Wilson. He left practice with a shoulder injury on Saturday. The severity is not yet clear, but it doesn't sound serious, so he should be okay. So here's kind of your main injury report here. David Irving did not report. Collins is on the PUP. Frazier is on the NFI. And then Noah and Wilson, for now, are out, but they should return rather quickly. One guy who is not on that injury report is Jaylon Smith. And is he 100%? I want to believe, but I'm only going to give it the 3 stars for now. I'm not going to quite give it all 4, namely because I just want to see him play in a full game. He has looked good in minicamp and OTAs and training camp. He looks like pre-Notre Dame or pre-injury Jaylon Smith when he was back at Notre Dame. There's no brace. He's moving quicker and faster this year, and that's all very good and well. I just want to see him play in a game and make sure that he is back there before I give it the full 4 stars, but it's pretty close to 3.5 stars right now. So let us know, folks, if Smith will have a breakout year. Give me a 1 for a yes and a 2 for a no. I lean toward a 1. I think he's pretty close to being fully back and back to the guy that I saw coming out of Notre Dame before that injury was the best player in that year's draft. All right, folks, I am Tom Downey. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage, and send me any questions you've got on the Cowboys, which brings us now to the Cowboys Mailbag. I love to do this, and I know you guys enjoy it as well. So we'll dive right in. Brody wants to know, could Rico Gathers play wide receiver? Well, the short answer is no, and there is a pretty lengthy explanation as to why. So Rico has the great size you want as tight end, and for a tight end, he's a bit of a better mover than most tight ends are. But if you put him at wide receiver, based on recent drafts and what he ran in the 40, you're at about a 2 percentile among receivers for speed. He's just not fast enough. He's got to be a tight end. He just has to be a better blocker and, improve overall as a player. All right, Sloan on Twitter wants to know, after watching some camp highlights, he thinks Blake Jarwin could be something special. I think that Blake Jarwin, when we get to week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever, he could be your starting tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. The staff is very high on Jarwin. They're replacing, of course, their top 2 tight ends. I would not be surprised if he emerged as the starter, and as of right now, he is right there behind Jeff Swaim, ahead of Dalton Schultz, and ahead of Rico Gathers. Jarwin right now is your number 2, and it might not be long until he's your number 3. Or number 1, went the wrong way there. So who should be the Cowboys starting tight end? Let me know in the comments section. Do you want Swaim, Dalton, Rico, or do you want Jarwin there? Let me know who you guys want in the comments section. Keep rolling out with some more questions coming in. Rodriguez says, with Frazier being placed in the NFI, on the NFI, could Dallas attempt to get Earl Thomas? And there are a couple different comments here about Frazier. We'll kind of scroll through all these questions here at once. Ethan says, hey, with the medical issue, what about trading for Derrick Henry, which I think makes more sense if indeed Frazier misses time. And Sandman says, with the medical condition, they need a box safety, still need depth. Is Earl Thomas still intact? So all of those things get played into one with Kavon Frazier's question marks at safety. You bring up their depth chart without Frazier, and it's bad. You got Jeff Heath, Xavier Woods, which is fine as your top 2. But then you're banking on some combination of Marqueston Huff, Jameel Showers, Cam Kelly, or Tyree Robinson. Hard pass there. So if Frazier does miss time with this blood clotting issue, you got to go find somebody else. Maybe it's a box safety in free agency. maybe you do go trade for Derrick Henry, which I would love. He'd be a good fit at the strong safety position. Or maybe you increase your efforts to land an Earl Thomas. And Jordan wants to know if the Cowboys are waiting on Earl Thomas to make an addition at safety. I think that theory makes a lot of sense. The Cowboys hope, and they definitely want to land Earl Thomas. If that's the case, then they should wait for E.T. Of course, at a certain point, they can't wait forever. So as the Cowboys, I think, are a little bit waiting on Earl Thomas. They don't want to go sign a Kenny Vaccaro if they could get Earl Thomas. But I don't think it's the main reason why. It's because, of course, well, Seattle, they're still the ones in charge of that. So let me know, folks, if you want the Cowboys to trade for Earl Thomas. Give me an A for a yes, a B for a no. I'm sure many of you guys will say A, or I've seen quite a few Bs as well, given the presence of Xavier Woods. Michael wants to know if I feel that Earl Thomas is only pulling the strings of Cowboys fans' hearts to get his contract from Seattle or somebody else. And Michael, a very astute observation. I think it's a legitimate possibility. So remember, folks, Thomas's number one goal is not to play for the Cowboys. His number one goal is to get that big, fat contract he so desperately wants. He doesn't care if it's Dallas or the Seahawks or somebody else. He just wants to get paid, and saying that the reports of the Cowboys having interest there provides additional leverage. So I don't know if it's actually the case, but it is a possibility there. He could just want that big money from Seattle, and if he asks you to use the Cowboys to do it, then it's worthwhile. We'll come back with more mailbag questions, folks, but first, a quick word from our sponsor, The Guild. All right, another question coming in now from Sandman. He says he wants to know what is wrong with David Irving. First a suspension, now he's in drug rehab. So David Irving, in reality, has had a really, really bad offseason. All right, he's excused from camp to attend rehab for his substance abuse. He won't return for camp most likely. A 4-game suspension for the substance abuse policy. And then beyond that, he was overweight, missed much of the offseason program, had a false accusation of domestic violence. But when on the field, he's so talented. When he's healthy and able to play, you kind of want to wait and see what happens there. I think in reality, David has to get his actual life in order. Then he can figure out what's going on with the football kind of stuff. That's not the ideal scenario for the Cowboys, but it is the best case for David Irving. So in terms of going to rehab, I think it's the best case for him, even though it's not what anyone wants out there. Jordan wants to know if we should trade Irving and what could we get for him. Well, the answer is no one's going to take on a troubled defensive lineman who is currently in rehab for a drug problem. That's just not going to happen. So David Irving, in reality, has pretty much no trade value, and it's better to keep him and hope that maybe you get something else in terms of on-the-field play if it's a handful of sacks over the course of a season. Even that is worth it. So, folks, let me know if the Cowboys should dump David Irving. Give me a Y for a yes, an N for a no. I say no for this year. Bring him back, let him play, see if he can be that disruptive guy you saw last year. And then after the year ends, you say, okay, thanks for everything, David. We'll see you later when we play against you because we're not paying you a big contract to re-sign. Christopher wants to know of all the mock drafts he has done, Hearns is picked before Gallup. Of course, he refers to fantasy football. Wants to know if I agree. I think in terms of redraft leagues, yeah, Hearns is the safer pick. You know you'll get something out of him. But Gallup, I think, does have a little bit more upside. In dynasty leagues, I love Gallup. So let me know, which receiver do you guys want in fantasy football? Give me an H for Hearns and a G for Michael Gallup. All right, Jordan on Twitter. Again, I'm on Twitter at whatgoingdown. Hit me with any questions that you guys have. Asks, A, what should we do with our cap space next year? And how many yards and TDs will Gallup have? Well, as for Gallup, we'll see. I think anything around 600, 500 yards and 3 or 4 TDs is a good start for a third-round pick rookie. Remember, he is a third-round rookie. As for free agency, there's going to be a lot of money and a lot of things to do. 1, re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence. 2, maybe you extend Dak Prescott. Maybe you extend La'el Collins and or Byron Jones. And then beyond that, maybe you look for a big budget wide receiver in the draft or free agency, I guess. And maybe, just maybe, you pay Earl Thomas in free agency or you extend him if you do end up trading for him. All right, UMB, Ultra Micro Budget, wants to know if Cole shows out in the first half of the year, could they do an extension at that point? And yes, they absolutely could. I think the Cowboys want to maintain some flexibility long-term at the wide receiver spot, be it with Gallup and Hearns and or Cole Beasley. So he is in line for an extension if he does have that great start to the year, and if he ends up taking maybe a bit of a more team-friendly contract. I think the reality is that Beasley saw what all those receivers got last offseason. He might try and see if he can get more on the open market, and I wouldn't blame him for that at all. All right, Orion asks about Kevin Dodd, if the Cowboys should bring him in, and my answer is no. I do not want Kevin Dodd on this team for two main reasons. One, the Cowboys don't need another pass rusher. They're fine. Two, Kevin Dodd was coming off a disastrous first 2 years, had a clean slate with a new coaching staff, and didn't show up to camp. Seriously? I don't want that attitude, that mindset, or another pass rusher. Hard pass on Kevin Dodd. No interest in him. I think his career might be over. Another addition option, Jordan wants to know about Teddy Bridgewater if Dak looks horrible or with an injury. If he looks bad, they're not going to go trade for Teddy Bridgewater. I would be stunned if that's the case. But if he gets hurt, maybe it makes a little bit more sense. And the Jets, I think, are going to try and flip him for a draft pick, a fourth, fifth, whatever, if a quarterback does go down. And I think there's some upside with Mike White and Cooper Rush. But I would trust Teddy Bridgewater more because I am a big fan of Teddy Two Gloves. But again, a trade seems very, very unlikely at this point. Michael wants to know if the Cowboys are going to sign somebody not named Kenny Vaccaro, for me, of course, who should they sign? For me, it's pretty obvious. Give me Jonathan Hankins. The Cowboys need a big boy up front at that one technique spot. I don't want it to be Brian Price. Give me Hankins instead. I know the Cowboys don't value nose guards, and he's not going to be a great disruption guy, but he'll be that big boy up front to stop the run, and that's a big concern for me. I would sign Hankins right now. For whatever reason, that has not happened yet, and the Cowboys, frankly, have shown no interest in adding him, so it's a bit of a pipe dream on that end. So, folks, let me know, what free agent do you want the Cowboys to sign? Is it a Hankins, a Vaccaro, somebody else, Adrian Peterson maybe? Let me know in the comments section. Some more questions here. Juan asks, who has more pressure, Dak or Jason Garrett? It's a no-brainer. It's Garrett. If Dak struggles, he'll probably get another year. If Garrett struggles and the Cowboys struggle, he's gone. So let me know, folks, if you think the Cowboys will keep Garrett as their head coach in 2019. Give me a Y for a yes and N for a no. As I've said before, I think it is playoffs or bust this year for Jason Garrett. Back to Michael asks about what mid-round rookie do I see having the most impact this year? I'll say mid-round starts fourth and beyond. Here are some of the notable guys there. You got Dorrance Armstrong, Dalton Schultz. I'm going to discount Mike White, a backup quarterback. Covington, I don't think he's going to be the guy. So I think in reality, I'm focusing on two guys, Dalton Schultz and Cedric Wilson. Schultz, I feel very confident, will make the roster, which leads me to believe it might be him. But if Wilson makes it, I think Wilson has the higher ceiling, lower floor in terms of year one impact at the offense for the Dallas Cowboys. Another one from Michael asked about with the handling of Gurley and Bell's contracts, what does it mean for Zeke? Frankly, Michael, I think that Zeke's contract talks might look a little bit more like Lev Bell's than Todd Gurley's. And one last one here. How can Jerry Jones tell the players they are not allowed to stay in the locker room during the anthem when the owners agree that they can? The reality is he kind of can't, but it's Jerry Jones. He's going to say what he wants and gets his way. And in the end, the Cowboys aren't going to disagree with Jerry Jones. The players will stand, and it won't be much of an issue for the Cowboys during the season. All right, folks, I am Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. Hit me with any questions you've got, and if you missed anything, don't worry. We'll play it again here in just a second.